The game is on the line right now.
And there's no wonder that nobody trusts them.
Throw a little vodka in there, it'd been a lot better.
Honestly, I'm just gonna smile.
I understand their tradition, I understand the helmet and the logo, but we got a logo too. There goes the cheetah! Tyreek Hill!
Where's that Sooner magic now, baby?
Boom, what is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the ProbsCast. I'm your host here, Keaton Hargett. Be sure to follow me, like, subscribe on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you're watching this. Be sure to, show a little bit of love. But I'm here today with a big name on the scene today for Oklahoma State. It's McClain Baxley. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, and I did a little bit of research because you just started covering Oklahoma State not too long ago, right?
Yeah, it'll be 3 months on Tuesday, on the 15th.
Okay, dope. And you're living in Stillwater?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. So kind of explain, like, what the hell that means. Like, how did you start covering Oklahoma State? Like, why do you have to move there if you're doing a lot of, like, media work and things like that?
Yeah, so I got the job in May, got offered it in April. Went through interviews for 24/7 for a couple other jobs, and this job included, and they chose me to be the guy. And so for about 2 or 3 weeks, I was living in Athens, Georgia still, and just working remotely, doing interviews from Athens, writing from Athens, and then early June, I moved here officially. I moved to Stillwater, and just so I can be here, obviously there's press conferences, there's practices, there's games. There'll be games. I want to be as close as possible. So, I live here in Stillwater. So I've been here. I moved officially the first weekend of June.
Dude, that's a rough time to move to Stillwater your first time. Nothing's going on in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice because there weren't, students. Like, I was able to go to Walmart. I was able to drive on Perkins at, for 30, 45 minutes of my life. But I was able to kind of do things without being swarmed by college students. And then obviously, starting this week and in the future, there'll be more students on campus, more students going on, more things going on. But it's given me a chance to kind of explore the town. My girlfriend's moved to Oklahoma City, so I've been exploring there as well. And just kind of getting used to Oklahoma because prior to June, I'd never been to Oklahoma. So first go around.
No, I hear you, man. And Oklahoma's kind of a special place because it feels like it's a little bit in the past. Inflation hasn't really caught up to it as much as where I am right now, and kind of grew up as the DFW area. So yeah, I think Oklahoma's a great place to live, especially Stillwater, Oklahoma, because you still get a little bit more of something to do. But I'm a big college guy, and I know you are as well. So I like being around the college atmosphere. But you were living in Athens. You didn't go to Georgia, did you?
No. I went to Georgia Southern.
But you got to cover the Bulldogs, for how long?
For about 2 years.
Dude, so back-to-back national championships, you got to cover both those? I
covered the first one, yeah. That was crazy. I mean, I started in August, like right before the season started. I did mostly recruiting, both for UGA recruiting and Athens area recruiting. So I did a lot of stories there. And then, I was able to go to the SEC championship where they lost to Alabama. And then we drove up to Indianapolis for them to beat Alabama to win their first championship in 40 years. That was super cool. Obviously, I didn't grow up a Georgia fan, I didn't go to Georgia, but just kind of being there, I've got a lot of friends that went to Georgia, a lot of friends that, are big Dogs fans. And so just kind of being there for that, historic moment of them and for them to do it again and beat Alabama to do so and kind of get over that hump of beating Saban and being the team that had held the number for the past 5 or 6 years was super cool to be a part of. It was freezing. It was like 6 degrees in Indianapolis there in January, but super awesome experience. And then, the following season, they go back and do it again. I was at the Tennessee game, which was the top 5, supposed to be the biggest game of the season. And then Georgia just kind of scored 2 touchdowns and then ran the ball the rest of the. It was just doing what they do, but still just an awesome atmosphere. The rain was coming down, sold out stadium, the whole people stayed at the end of the game, so just a really cool experience. And just a very I don't get any residuals from Kirby Smart. Prior to me moving to Athens, they hadn't won a title in 41 years, and I moved there and they went back to back. So I don't know. I haven't gotten the trophy, I haven't gotten a ring size yet, but I'm still working on that.
Well, I mean, man, if you just started off and then you got to cover the Dogs, obviously going back to back, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as saying that, you're a good luck charm, but I mean, I like every single power of luck in Stillwater, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we had Georgia won back to back. We had one of our high school teams went to back-to-back championships. They won one of them, high school football state championships, and two others went to the state championship games. So yeah, I mean, I'm a winner. I'm around winners a lot, and so hopefully that'll kind of transcend or translate into here in Stillwater and in Big 12 play.
So, okay, obviously you grew up in SEC country. I was working for NASCAR out in Daytona Beach up until a couple months ago, and I moved back here to kind of focus more on the podcast, Pokes with a Purpose, and doing social media work and things like that. But there's not a whole lot of talk out in the SEC country of Big 12, and that rightfully so. I mean, the SEC typically washes everyone in football, and they win the national championship every year. There's nothing wrong with that, and I drink the orange Kool-Aid to an extent. I'm not an idiot. I definitely see that. But one of the things that I saw whenever I watch new guys get hired for Oklahoma State media is, man, we don't recruit. And Oklahoma State does a fair game in the Big 12 almost every year. Is it a little different going from back-to-back national championships to when the hell is Oklahoma State going to go actually get a 5-star recruit?
It's like they're playing different sports, really. I mean, Kirby Smart, pretty much every year is going to get at least 2 or 3 5-stars. They're going to be in the top 3, the top conversation for top 3 recruiting class, with Alabama, with Ohio State, USC, Oklahoma, Clemson. Whereas Oklahoma State, I mean, they're right now on 24/7 right now. We've gone ahead and moved, Utah and Arizona State into their recruiting rankings. And right now, I believe they're 9th or 10th in the Big 12 recruiting rankings for 2024 class. And so totally different animal. But like you said, I mean, Gundy's been able to get these guys. He's never had a dominant class.
No, I think we've had like 2 5-stars in our history.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's continued to, deliver 3 or 4 different 10-win seasons. He's continued to go to a bowl game every year. He's continued to, compete against, Texas and Oklahoma and some of these bigger schools. He beat Notre Dame a couple years ago. So he's been able to do more with less, I guess. I just don't know how longer that can that trend can continue if he wants to compete in this new. Because you think off the top of your head, Texas and Oklahoma are out, you're gonna move up, but no. Then you got Arizona and Arizona State that are out recruiting you, and Utah is obviously back-to-back Pac-12 champion, and so things just kind of get harder, kind of just stay the same, even though you get rid of Oklahoma and Texas, who are kind of perennial recruiting and on-the-field powers.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of that from the outside of like, oh, well, Texas, no, you're leaving, so Oklahoma State should be happy. But we take Texas lunch money. I think they've only beaten us once at home since 2010, and I think they have like 3 wins total since 2010 against Oklahoma State. And, they are recruited as Texas, Like I grew up down the street. My father was a big Longhorns fan. I totally get it, and it just blows my mind because if Gundy could figure out the recruiting stretch, I mean, we've had one of the best records since 2010. Very consecutive on 8 to about 10 wins. Last year was a little weird because we had a lot of injuries and things like that. But ultimately, yeah, if we could figure out the recruiting stretch, and Gundy's putting together a recruiting team for that finally since 2005, but. Yeah, it baffles me, and I think it baffles a lot of the 247 guys as well, because it's like you never see them in recruiting. They're always damn near last, but yet they come up just short of a conference championship or in the conference championship as of last year, almost every year.
I think you see this more often in college basketball, where you got really 5 or 10 teams that are recruiting 5-star, recruiting 4-stars, but obviously 60 teams make the tournament, and rarely do those number 1, number 2 class teams make the Final Four. And you've got the Gonzagas, you've got the Villanovas, the kind of smaller mid-major tier schools, versus in football, where if you're not recruiting at that high level, you're not making the national championship. I mean, pretty much from game 1 or from week 1, there's only like 20 teams that can potentially make the Final Four or make the college football playoff the way it's run now, and just how recruiting, how talent is acquired and stuff. And it sucks, but it's also you get the talent, you get the guys in there.
It's gonna shock you. I promise, man. Like it blows my mind every year. I mean, you look at the guys. Justin Blackman, no one knew about him. Des Bryant, no one knew about him. Hell, we had Shuba Hubbard, right? Came from Canada, and it's like these guys weren't getting graded at all. And Gundy, it's like the day that recruiting comes out, everyone's waiting next to their fax machine, and Gundy's getting his copy ready in the other room to take what everyone else doesn't want. And puts on a show with it, man. It like, I promise you, it's really going to blow your mind if I can give you any intro. And you're covering all sports, right, for Oklahoma State?
Yeah, football and basketball for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'd like to get out to obviously I got here right after the College World, the Women's College World Series ended, and I know there's a big history with softball. I know there's a big history with basketball or baseball, excuse me, and then wrestling. I'm excited to get some wrestling matches. And just kind of, excited because growing up in SEC country, that's not a thing. Wrestling isn't a big deal there. Obviously, I had some friends in high school that wrestled in high school, but just, Big 12, Big 10 wrestling is just a big deal. And so I'm excited to attend. Whether I write anything off of that, I don't know. But just kind of being there and experiencing those atmospheres and just the culture of those different programs will be cool to see.
Yeah, they get fired up, man. It's 52 national championships, 54, something like that. 39 of them being from wrestling. But, Oklahoma State kicks ass in a lot of different sports, and especially with basketball. Basketball has changed almost completely because, we have a lot of people at the transfer portal. But at the same time, and I was friends with a lot of the guys on the team. So it's not like I'm trying to talk shit or anything like that. But it's like if they couldn't get us to the tournament last year, well, then why keep them around? It's almost like a Deion Sanders type deal. I'm sure you got some buddies at 247 that cover Colorado, and they must be thinking, what the hell? But bring in a winning culture. If we're not winning now, why are we going to wait for these guys to try to win later, especially whenever they're all this late in their career or college career, at least? And for the most part, I wish them all the best as long as they don't tend to OU.
Yeah. Yeah, or Tulsa when it comes to football anyway.
They can go attend Tulsa. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. But hey, we don't like the ones down south, man. And the Trace Fords and Kelly Maxwell, if they want to roll down there, that's fine. But it hasn't worked out so far for anyone that ends up transferring there. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And I'm glad that you came on the podcast, especially because, man, it's a really small, and adapted culture, and people end up liking it by the time they leave. But for the most part, no one goes that's a big name. And whenever I saw you get hired, like I said, I was like, dude, this dude has no clue that, Oklahoma State, a decent sized brand, right? But they still go and kick everyone's ass with dudes you've never heard of. It blows my mind every year. I don't know.
Yeah. It is crazy. And and you see smaller schools doing that, getting those upsets against the big schools. But to be a big school, to be at a Power 5 and compete for Big 12 championships, every 3 or 4 years,
you got to recruit.
Yeah, but to the fact that they haven't fully gone all in with that is impressive, and just kind of the consistency of how Gundy and his staff has done the past 15 years or so. I guess almost 20 years. He's
an interesting guy. So you said you went to Georgia Southern.
Yes.
So why Georgia Southern?
I enjoyed Georgia Southern. So I grew up, my family's from South Carolina, and so we grew up Clemson fans, and so grew up Clemson fans, Georgia haters. So Georgia was off the table from the get-go. I didn't want to go to Tech. I couldn't have gotten into Tech, but didn't want to go to Tech, and so it was really Georgia Southern or Kennesaw State, and it really came down to, at the time, Kennesaw State, their first football season was my senior year of high school, so they weren't really established. Whereas Georgia Southern, they were 6-time national championships at FCS level, and they had a sports culture and everything. So that's where I wanted to go. So it's about 4 hours from home, which wasn't super far, not super close, so good distance. And just they had the tradition of sports and what I wanted to do. And from high school, I wanted to go into sports journalism. I used to want to be on TV. Now, obviously,
what made you want to do that?
What?
Don't freak out at me. You're starting to talk fast. What made you want to get into sports journalism?
So I love storytelling. I love talking to people.
Who do you watch? Who's your favorite sportscaster?
Big question. Stuart Scott was great, and then Scott Van Pelt. Scott. I used to want to do what Scott Van Pelt does. He kind of has that show where it's Sports Center, but it's also kind of like Tonight Show as far as it's more casual, and him and Steve, they have fun, and with gambling stuff and just with their guests they have on there, it's more relaxed and more still getting the news, still getting the updates of what you want, but it's delivered in a more I don't know if fun's the right word, but just more laid back and more enjoyable way. And so going to college, I wanted to do that. I was in broadcasting in high school at a pretty good broadcasting department. I did the daily news every day. I was a news anchor, and I would try to get some sports in there as well for high school sports and stuff. And then I got to college, and there wasn't as big of a opportunity to do broadcasting as there was for writing. And so I joined the student paper there at Georgia Southern and enjoyed it and realized that I could show up to a press conference with just a notepad and my phone and get the same content as, people that were, the broadcasting people who were showing up with, pounds of camera equipment and microphones and dealing with all this stuff. And we're getting the same stuff. And I was like, if I can go in there and, do the same job with less, and still be able to tell stories and use words. And, I love being able to sit down and write, long form stories and talk to guys and girls for, an hour and just kind of, I'm more interested in their off the field or off the court stories as I am with their, because I think anybody can go to ESPN app or go to, Fox Sports app and get the scores, get the stats and how many touchdowns they threw. But going off the field and talking about this kid that, came from nothing and now he's, playing college football, or she had a health concern in high school and now she's, an all conference player. And so I think getting those human stories and using sports to tell those human stories, I think is what fascinates me about sports journalism, because it's still journalism. You're still reporting on news, reporting on, serious issues and that's it. But then you also have the sports, and it's enjoyable. I get paid to go watch college football, which is not a bad thing.
That's awesome. I was in sports media my first semester at Oklahoma State. My professor scared the hell out of me because he kept telling me, he was like, dude, you're not going to make money for a long time. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go into sports management. And then, obviously I got a job with Barstool Sports while I was in college, which was fun. But, very limited. I couldn't do a podcast. The merchandise they wanted me to sell was going to be like $50 a t-shirt. I was like, so screw this, man. I'm going to do my own podcast and bring on the people I want, talk about sports I want. And I love meeting the 247 guys, because Oklahoma State, like I said, it's such a tricky situation because, everyone knows Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas, Des Bryant. And, you'll see them fluctuate towards the top. We get close to the top. We typically don't win the conference championship. But for the most part, it kind of shocks me, at least, because it's like you don't know any of the dudes on the field until they're graduating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's fun, and I enjoy every person who came on. I don't know if you saw, I had Alan Bowman on the podcast. Great kid. It's a great kid. And I got to talk to him face to face. And, I like not having a whole lot of questions. I like being able to just kind of figure it out on my own, especially giving them a platform and things like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that first year, probably my freshman year of college, when I would do, whether I was going to games and doing, just going to press conferences after the game, or I was, talking with a guy or girl for just a separate interview for feature story, I would come in with, 10 bullet point questions. I needed to hit all these. And now I come in with like an idea. This is what I want the story to be like. And so I need to ask questions. I need to get answers that are kind of pushing them and towards me, towards that idea. But yeah, I mean, I think you get better content, you get better. It's just more natural having conversations rather than like, I'm going to ask this question, you're going to give me this answer, next question. And it's better coming back and forth when you're allowed to do that.
So you said you had a couple different options whenever you were like, I don't know how it works with 247, but I'm assuming they lay out, do you want to cover this, or this? And that's kind of where you're about to move. What were your other options?
So it wasn't as much as options. I interviewed.
Make it sound, be greedy. Tell me that it was USC and Oklahoma, and man, you just couldn't pass up the opportunity with Oklahoma State.
No, so I was laid off from Athens in December. And so I was applying everywhere, newspapers, online outlets, whatever. And probably in mid-March, I got an email from an editor at 24/7 saying, hey, we've seen your clips, we've seen your stuff, we're interested in interviewing you. So I interviewed for a couple Oklahoma jobs, like covering OU, and then didn't get those. And then a week later, or a few weeks, about a month later.
McClain, that's not what you say. You say that they offered you way more money to take their job, but you decided to go with Oklahoma State.
Exactly. I was like, go Pokes, and I didn't want to wear I'm against red, and so I wanted the black and orange.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I like how you said red too, because that really upsets them.
Yeah, it's not crimson or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just a great opportunity, and taking that chance to really move. Yeah, I'm about 14 hours from Athens driving, and my parents they live right outside Nashville, so it's about 10 hours from them. So
Yeah, my girlfriend's parents just moved right outside of Nashville, so I love Nashville. I think it's beautiful. Now, I know that you have dinner reservations, but I do want to ask a question real quick. What do you think the most interesting part about not just Oklahoma State, but the most interesting college football story going on right now? Are you going to say Deion Sanders?
No, I mean, obviously today the thing that just came out with the whole Michael Orr situation, the blindside.
That was wild.
Thing
Yeah, he got
wild.
blindsided on that one. That was weird.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy.
For all the listeners, by the way, the Michael Orr story, apparently he's suing the family that adopted him because none of that was true. He didn't get adopted or anything, right?
Yeah, they never officially adopted him. They made him it's like co-owner. I don't fully know. It's a lot of legal language.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Man, they should have just kept that one a lie and sued him privately. I don't care, but that's one of my all-time favorite football movies. My kids will never know that was a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Remember the Titans, like how most of that wasn't true, but we still love it and still cheer for the end.
Yeah, we're not spoiling that. Man, look, time's got to pass for that to go on, and I don't need anyone spoiling for my children. But the Michael Orr story is a little crazy. The Iowa State situation with Hunter Deckers and all them illegally gambling.
Well, and I mean, it affects Oklahoma State too with Arlen Bruce. I was driving back from last week. I moved my girlfriend into Oklahoma City. I was about an hour outside of Oklahoma City, still driving the U-Haul, and I get a text about that's about to come out and everything. With it affecting Oklahoma State, and I'm like, oh, why is this happening?
I think that he knew he was wrong, and he had his own private conversation with God, and he said, I got to go somewhere to change this. And he came to Oklahoma State. I mean, that's the only place you're going to be able to get 100% clean with the Lord.
Exactly. Get washed in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. But that makes sense. And I think there's a lot of great college football stories coming up. Are you only going to games in Stillwater this year?
So I'm going to, all 7 games here, and then I'll be at Iowa State. I'll probably be at Arizona State. And then I'll definitely be at UCF. I don't know if I'll get paid to go to UCF, but I just, that atmosphere.
You got friends down there.
Yeah.
I live an hour from there.
Stay. And I mean, it's been sold out for months. And so just the atmosphere of the bounce house, and it'll probably be at night. And so that'll be a cool game to be at. And so, but Houston and I'm not going to West Virginia. I'm not going to Morgantown.
Have you ever been to Morgantown?
No.
Hey, no. You should go to Morgantown, man. I promise you, most underrated college football city I've ever been in. College town, whatever you want to call it. It's a felony to light a couch on fire there.
I just know it's a bitch to get to. You have
it is a bitch to get to, but it's worth every single step of the way, man. You got to fly into Pittsburgh and drive down. And last time I went there, I think Oklahoma State. I'm pretty sure we shut them out. If not, it was Tech the next week. But man, you want to talk about a blast? I didn't even know their bars closed till 4 a.m. Till the next day, I woke up and I looked at my bank account and said, "Why was I buying shots at 4 a.m?" Like it's a wild place. Virginia? Yeah, but, it's a very Stillwater feel, but it's like the whole state. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I've driven through it because Georgia Southern's big rival was App State up in Boone, North Carolina. So they
love App State.
There. They similar vibes. Just kind of the mountaineer.
I had a great friend of mine. He went to App State. Yeah, and I love him, man. They party hard. There's nothing else to do in Boone than party. Man, he's a great guy, and he explained a lot of it to me. And I absolutely, by the way, never put App State on your non-conference schedule thinking you're going to get a good steal, because they're known for. You got Michigan. Last year they did Texas A&M, which I don't know how big an upset it was. I know they're number 6 in the country at the time. But Texas A&M typically kind of shits the bed.
Well, yeah,
but for the most.
2019, they beat South Carolina and North Carolina in the same year. I mean, I guess they were the team of the Carolinas. I mean, they were
do not schedule App State on your, and with the Iowa State deal, I don't know how much you look at my Twitter. I love paying attention to yours because, I've kind of watched your path, which was my own doing, and I'm not giving myself credit for that. But you seem like a great guy, and I love watching how you put out stuff, because a lot of people can be biased, and Feinbaum's a great example. Sure, he's a media personality, but anything that comes out is pro SEC to the max, and to the point where it's shitting on everyone else. And you're kind of like, all right, what type of information is that coming out? And, I really appreciate you for doing the work you've done. And I really wanted to bring you on the podcast to ask you kind of your experience. And I'd love to do one with you definitely after the season to kind of get a little comparison. I know it's not 87 bars within 1 square mile in Athens. Is that what it is?
The most. It's a lot. And I've been to
87. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure because I joked someone because I had an Ohio Bobcat next to me, and he told me that they had the most bars on one street, and I was like, I thought that was Georgia, and he goes, no, that's within 1 square mile. Ours is they have like 50 something bars on one street.
Yeah, Athens, Georgia is the second most bars per capita behind Madison, Wisconsin. In the country.
Really? Okay, I know in Wisconsin they party. Now, Stillwater, and I don't know if you know this, I don't smoke weed. It makes me paranoid. I did when I was a teenager. My mother sat me down and told me, you're not good at smoking weed. I found this in your sock drawer, right? I'm not good at smoking weed. But Stillwater has more dispensaries per capita than anywhere in the world.
I live across from like 3 or 4. I mean, it's insane. And you smell it and
dude, it's ridiculous. I'm not a pot smoker. To each their own. You want to smoke weed? I really don't care. But for the most part, I'm like, dude, it's if anything goes under, a weed store's coming in. It's like we live in the damn hood.
Yeah, I mean it's everywhere. It's definitely. I mean, I've been out to Seattle and Portland several times. I got family that lives out there, and I love it out there. And
you got family all over.
I'm a world traveler. I got people everywhere.
And you chose Stillwater, Oklahoma to call home, man. That's pretty badass.
Planted my flag here in the Midwest.
It's a fun town, man. I know that you've been there over the summer, so it's a little different. You got a girlfriend living with you?
Yeah, she's about an hour out. She's living in Oklahoma. But yeah.
Yeah, and OKC can be somewhat fun. Tulsa's more Stillwater, Oklahoma fans, all that kind of jazz. But for the most part, Oklahoma's it can be a fun place. Like I said, I grew up in the DFW area, a lot to do. Stillwater, not a lot to do, and that was a big reason I chose it. Get out there. All I got to do is drink and talk about football.
Exactly, and that's what we're gonna do.
Well, hey, listen, man. I know that you got a dinner reservation, so I don't want to hold you up, but I really do appreciate you coming on. I definitely want to stay connected, and for all my fans, what are your social links?
Everything is just at McClain Baxley. So if you know my name, you know my socials. On Twitter and on 24/7. It's GoPokes247. But yeah, I'm on there way too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Our good luck charm, man. McClain Baxley. Well, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. I'm probably there. So appreciate all y'all. Peace.
The game is on the line right now.
And there's no wonder that nobody trusts them.
Throw a little vodka in there, it'd been a lot better.
But honestly, I'm just gonna smile.
I understand their tradition. I understand the helmet and the logo, but we got a logo too.